Anime movies watched this year: number 1, Fruits Basket Prelude. 7 out of 10. So I really love Fruits Basket. I have ever since I read the series back when I was younger, and that love has never wavered. In case you're wondering, I do consider the remake trilogy of seasons to be a 10 out of 10 as a series. It captures the magic of the original manga perfectly, and they're just absolutely beautifully produced. Made me cry multiple times. It's just wonderful. However, that series is not exactly a complete retelling of the manga. There is one section that was mostly cut, leaving just allusions to this specific flashback of information instead of showing the whole thing, which, even at the time, I felt was for the best. The flashback that showcases the romance between Kyoko and Katsuya, Toru's parents, is the most controversial and problematic element of the series for good reason. It shows the romance between two characters who meet when one is 14 and the other is her 22-year-old student teacher. An 8-year age gap student teacher relationship that the series never really grapples with the unfortunate power dynamics of. It is treated as beautiful and romantic, two sort of messed up people coming together and finding wholeness in one another, which I could love if not for that issue of power and age, which does lead to Toru being born when her mother is about 17 years old by most estimations. I personally think cutting it was the best thing that the series could have done, because now you can experience Fruits Basket with this just being an extraneous detail that you kind of have to puzzle out to realize, rather than it taking center stage in a rather pivotal portion of the series. You can basically choose your experience, and if you want your experience to include Kyoko and Katsuya or not. And it kind of sucks that all that is that way, because the romance between these two actually works rather well. Their banter is fun, they fit to fill each other's gaps pretty well, and when I see them together either in the movie or in the manga, I can believe them as two people who found each other and made it work. With a few small changes, I could have been able to love them so much more, but there is that pall hanging over the entire thing because of the situation in which they met and the 8-year age gap between them. As for the movie itself, most of it is taken up by this flashback, as that is the point of the film, but the first 30 minutes serve as a nice little summary that hits all the major highlights of Kyo and Toru's relationship that was able to get me smiling just seeing these two fall in love all over again. I think it does speak to this issue, though, that Kyoko and Katsuya's story just doesn't have enough substance to make up a full movie on its own. It makes the film feel a little disjointed to get this highlight reel of one relationship and then go into the full story of another. I think there might have been some attempt to try and draw a parallel between the two relationships, but that doesn't really work out at all because these are very different relationships and characters. There is a little extra content here that shows what things are like for Kyo and Toru at the end of the series and even a little beyond it, but if you're someone who's not interested in the story of Toru's parents, it's not enough that you have to sit through the entire rest of the movie for it. It can be watched on its own without having to sit through everything else.